Hello, BookTube. I had a bookish coincidence, a bookish event happen that was so freakish I had to rush to the camera and tell you all about it. I finished, earlier today, I finished a trio of videos that I did in the midst of the tech apocalypse that is currently engulfing Hyde Cottage, where one machine after another is refusing to work, uh, or hiccuping, or creating all sorts of logistical problems that it never created before. I filmed that first trio of videos with a different shirt on, but the same dramatic curtain, on one device, on the same device. And that device gave me problems all morning long. And then I decided in the afternoon that I would, for this video, revert to a workhorse, an absolute workhorse, a 2013 MacBook Pro. My 2013 MacBook Pro, which I have used to make thousands of videos on this channel without ever a hitch, without ever a problem. The reason that I stopped is because I had the kind of impression in my mind that maybe the camera wasn't all that good, that maybe the audio wasn't all that good. I have done a couple of test videos on this thing, including one last week, and I don't see an appreciable difference. Certainly not anything that would stop you from watching. But one way or another, I'm getting a bad feeling from the machine that made those earlier videos today. I want to do some tutorials on it, maybe look through its specs and its settings. So I'm making this on the old MacBook Pro in order to tell you about an amazing literary coincidence. There's an old saying that if the gods want something, they ask 3 times. Yesterday, at the Brattle. Was it yesterday? No, today's Monday. It was Friday. Friday at the Brattle, I got a pile of books. I made a video about it. And one of the books was this, The Shores of Light by Edmund Wilson. That somebody put one of these nice plastic library dust jackets on it. While I was examining it, I noticed that the inner spine is about to crack off from the pages. So the plastic covering really doesn't matter, and this really doesn't count as a double that I can send out to anybody. But while I was examining it, I fell to reading it. I always forget how much I love this author. I have my issues with him, but I always forget how much I love him. And I fell to reading. I read a couple of essays, and finally I got to the piece that he did in here on Thornton Wilder, the author of Our Town, among other things. And I read it, and I loved its observations about Thornton Wilder, but there are only a couple. The essay is mainly about Marcel Proust. It's mainly about Proust, and it shimmers with brilliance about Proust. Probably Proust and Wilson were on some very similar personal wavelengths. One way or another, Proust brings out the best in him, and that I read that, and it struck me. And one of the reasons is that it struck me is something that's come up on this channel many times before. In fact, it's disappointed some of you who have better literary taste than I do, which is that Proust, and especially his masterpiece, Remembrance of Things Past, In Search of Lost Time, has never really done anything for me. There are people who have the whole thing memorized. There are people who know every single detail of it in the way that, for instance, I know the Iliad. It is their book. It is indispensable to them. And for them, it is absolutely imbued with magic. And I have known those people over the course of many, many, many years, the whole of my reading life. And maybe that's one of them now. They have always struck me as the kind of reader that you can't dismiss. I mean, I don't like to dismiss any readers, but if a reader comes to me and says, I really, really love book X, and A, I know that book X is dreadful, and B, I know that they barely ever read, I might not dismiss them, not in a callous way, but I won't take it seriously. I love to talk about it with them, but I won't take it inside me. I won't, when I get back to my little book cave, I won't have any second thoughts about whether or not I should revisit that work. Not a chance. You know this, right? You all have readers like that in your life. You love talking about certain books with them, but they don't have the ability to get in amongst you. They don't have the ability to move the meter at all. And then there's that class of readers that you know who do, where you can't dismiss their critical appraisals, and you can't dismiss their tastes, And if you know that they passionately love a book, you start to think that maybe you're missing something if you don't. I'm not saying that taste is universal at all, but I have often found in my life that in circumstance like that, it is a case of me missing something. And maybe missing out on something. And those readers, oh my, when it comes to Proust, when it comes to Remembrance of Things Past, I have known legions of those readers who have been pained and sad, not angry usually, but pained and sad that I just don't get on with this author. The pain is the same as the irritation that has been experienced by Dickens lovers for me my whole life when I tell them that I would rather read a Trollope novel any day of the week than read even Dickens' masterpiece. The irritation is the same there, but there's a pained element too, a particularly Gallic pained element of how can you not love this self-evidently brilliant work? How is that possible? Once, a long time ago, a dyed-in-the-wool fan of Remembrance of Things Past. Actually, now that I think about it, that fan wrote a couple of books that you might know. that fan told me, well, you, like all of us, have been caught up in this particular translation that was titled Remembrance of Things Past. But you can read Proust in French. Why don't you do that? Well, that surely there won't be any intermediary between you and the magic. And I told this person, okay, fair enough. I've never actually read Proust in French. But I have a passionate love of English language translations, and also new English releases are my bailiwick. They're my remit. So I'm not really quick to write off a foreign work simply because I'm getting it in translation. But nevertheless, over the course of a whole summer, I did indeed read Proust. And if anything, it was worse. If anything, the experience was worse. This video is getting off to a horrible start. I'm not referring to Vatek, for instance, where the famous quip was that it was better in translation than in the original. But it didn't work. Reading Proust. I'm not going to read Proust in any other language. I spent a good deal of time in Brazil once, a long time ago, with a great group of young people, and one of those young people was deeply in love with Remembrance of Things Past, with In Search of Lost Time, and she kept urging me to read it in Spanish. But anyway, it's just been a fundamental disconnect between me and this author, no matter how many times I've tried. And then I got this book, and I was a little heartbroken that it's obviously not a keeper. I'm basically going to have to throw it away. I will pull out certain essays that can get tucked into other books, but this volume really can't be read. It's about ready to fall off its binding. So I read that Thornton Wilder essay that was full of Proust. And then yesterday in the mail, I got a thin book, a tiny little package that I actually thought was a document. So I opened it off camera. It was mail, but I deprived you of your package opening. And it was this. I showed it to you earlier today. It's Monsieur Proust's Library. This is by Anke Molstein. This comes out from Other Press, and it is a re-release. I think the pub sheet told us, right? It is a re-release in honor of the 150th anniversary of Proust's birthday, and it was originally published in 2012, so, 10 years ago. And I remember it from then. You've got a little illustration on the back. There is a starling about ready to dip a Madeleine in tea and undergo all sorts of traumatic memory recall. I remembered this from then, and I got this in the mail and thought, oh, okay. Well, I just finished reading an Edmund Wilson essay about Proust. It was about Thornton Wilder, but it was really about Proust, and loved it. And once again felt, okay, Wilson clearly loves this guy, and so does everybody else, except you. And then a few days later, I got this thing in the mail, and I was flipping through it. This is a wonderful book. This author is steeply intelligent and dedicated to this author, to Proust. But not in a pedantic way. This is just a wonderful, incredibly intelligent, really encouragement to love this author and to love him through the most accessible keyhole of all, which is that he also loved books. And who would come to him and think about reading him that wouldn't also love books? I got this and I thought, okay, well, I read this when it first came out, but I barely remember anything about it. I will certainly give it another read, and it felt like a nudge, almost like a second request. And then, when I was done making that earlier batch of videos today, I took the bean out for a brief walk. It was very sunny. The sun has largely gone away now under low-lying clouds, so I have a feeling that the cold front that was predicted is indeed moving in. But when we went out, it was bright, brassy sunlight, and it was very hot. It was almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit with increasing humidity. And Frida wilts in the heat. She physically just wilts. She starts thunderously panting, starts losing a little bit of coordination, and refuses to admit it. She absolutely refuses to admit it. She is a never quit dog. I have heard from folks online that terriers are all like this. They never quit, except when they get older. A lot of people have told me, a lot of Schnauzer people have told me, it's going to be like a light switch. At some point when she's 6 or 7, all of this energy is just going to disappear. She's not going to be sick or unhappy, but she's not going to want to do anything anymore. So drink it up while you can, and I do. But on really hot days, I have to be the bad guy. I have to tell her, we're going just a very short route. We are not going to cover 5 miles. It's going to be a very short route, and then we're going to come back and recuperate. In fact, we were on the way to the make or break corner, where if we turn right, Frida knows we're going to the park, and if we turn left, she knows we're coming back home. And we were walking towards that corner when we met a young woman walking on the sidewalk who said, "Oh, how cute, can I pet her?" And I always tell people, yes, you can. It's her favorite thing to do. If you were a dog, maybe not so much. Frida's not aggressive towards other dogs, but she really doesn't like the look of them. And she thinks they're misusing their lives. Why on earth? She looks at dogs with a facial expression that says, "Why are you majoring in English? I'm paying money for you to read books? Major in business. How are you supposed to support yourself with an English degree?" That's exactly the look she gives other dogs, all other dogs. And they very much take it to heart. There are quite a few dogs on our route that are 6 times her size that are sort of afraid to look at her because they're afraid she might be in a bad mood. But humans, oh my, oh goodness me, she loves them. Absolutely loves them. I said, yes, absolutely, come and pet her. I've told many people in this neighborhood, after they're done smooching with Frida, I've told many people in this neighborhood, I work from home, I write on my couch, I take Frida out whenever she wants to go out. So if you're walking by at a distance and maybe you're having a crappy day, come right over. Come right over and let her cheer you up. Don't even hesitate. It will always be the right time for you to do that. But I'd never seen this young woman before, but she squatted right down to Frida's level, and they were all fussing with each other, and we were starting to chat. And I said, that corner is the make or break corner because we're going to have to turn back. It's too hot for walking. And the young woman said, "Oh, I don't know. There's a nice breeze." And I said, "You're not helping." And she said, "No, I'm on her side." So it was 2 against 1. But on that walk, Frida and I came across a little free library. These are little phenomenons. I think they're all over the Western world, where somebody sets one up somewhere on a sidewalk or at the edge of their lawn or whatever, and they fill it with books. And the idea is you take a book and you give one back when you get a chance. People that keep them usually upkeep them. They usually stock them. If I had somebody with carpentry skills, I would set one up at the end of my driveway. Absolutely, I would. And just fill it with books. The sidewalk is a constant stream of people going to the subway station, going to the bus station. So it's a lot of people. I feel certain that it would be a popular one. But we'd never seen this little free library before. And I always give them a look, even though I don't need any more books. I certainly don't need any more books. I've found some really neat books. I've shown you some of the ones I found at little free libraries in and around this area. So I stopped and I looked in that little free library. And I got my 3rd request from the gods. I still don't believe this. I'm going to show it to you, but I still don't believe I'm holding it in my hands. I found in that little free library today, the same day that I made the video about this, I found this. The original Other Press hardcover edition of this book from 2012, which is prettier and which has lovely end papers. and which, if I remember correctly, has the same, yeah, the same sparrow at the end. So this is a double now. I happen to send it to one of you. I have the hardcover now, which is prettier. It has the gold letter on library, and that the library letters are raised. And that pretty much did it for me. those three things pretty much did it for me. That was a little bit more than a coincidence. that was a nudge. And so I am going to change my plans and take this seriously. God help me, because I was stunned that I saw this thing, and when I was walking back, I thought, okay, you have always tried with this book, and you have always failed, but you have never tried with BookTube, and maybe that make all the difference in the world. Certainly, it's helped me in a lot of other ways. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a public read of this book for Proustober, for October. I'm going to read Remembrance of Things Past in English, probably in the Moncrief translation, probably that the one that's actually called Remembrance of Things Past. I don't want to complicate matters any here. I often say to people, just earlier today, I said to somebody who really wants to read the Odyssey. I think it was the Odyssey, or maybe the Aeneid, and they were thinking, well, should I read Pope's Odyssey? Should I read Dryden's Aeneid? I said to them, well, no, the book itself is new to you. That's going to be a new world right there. The alien diction and scansion of another poetic age is just another world. Why add on the difficulty? The point is to love the thing first, and then to experience it in whatever greater degree of fidelity. That is certainly the way I'm going to approach Remembrance of Things Past. I am not going to read the French. I'm going to read the Marquis English language translation, the one that I grappled with all those years ago when it was appearing. And you are welcome to join me for Proustober. You are welcome to join me and break out your own copies of Proust, whether it's In Search of Lost Time, a newer translation, or Remembrance of Things Past, or in the French, or even in Spanish if you're in Brazil. But you are welcome to join me in October. I thought I would sort of plant my flag now to keep myself accountable. So all that I need to do between now and then is get a copy of that trilogy. And of course, the minute I made this decision, I remembered that I think mid 2020, there was a box set of the Remembrance of Things Past hardcovers, the black non-dust jacketed hardcovers. There was a box set out in the sale lot at the Prattle Bookshop. I just ignored it. Love it or hate it, one of the most notable, most noteworthy translations into English of any work in the 20th century, and I just left it there. So, the Brattle will provide. It will turn up. Proust will turn up between now and, I'm going to say, September. If it doesn't, then that's what the Boston Public Library is for. But that gives you time as well. We're going to be loaded with BookTube events in November. Right. BookTube and other events in November. There is, of course, Nonfiction November. There's New Worlds November, the very first, the kickoff of what I'm hoping becomes a hallmark BookTube science fiction event. There's also NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. It's not technically a BookTube event, but there are going to be a lot of BookTube videos about it, including plenty from me. It is an event in which you write the first draft of a novel, 50,000 words, in 1 month, in the month of November. And I want you all, once again, as always, to be my writing buddies for November. There are a whole bunch of things. I'm sure there are others that I just don't know about. But now there's one for October. October probably has a full calendar too, and this is no small undertaking, which is why I'm not drafting anyone else. If you want to join in, let me know. But it's definitely going to be me. Proustober. I don't need to be nudged more than 3 times in one 24-hour period before I see the light, before I get the hint. So that's what I'm going to do. Thought I'd make a video and let you know. And maybe this will work. Maybe this time I will finally get Proust. Wouldn't that be worth it? It would certainly be worth it. It'd be worth even suffering through a book that takes 250 pages to get the main character out of bed. And not in a fun way, like in Oblomov. Well, I won't bash the thing. Instead, I will spend the upcoming months reading all of the book critics and what they have to say about Proust. Now that I've done Wilson, I'll do everybody else. And getting a copy of the trilogy. and then we'll see how things go. So I thought I would share this little literary coincidence with you because it's kind of creepy. Coincidences creep me out. So I'm going to wrap this up and upload this thing, and we'll see if this uploads faster than the earlier 3 videos. They're taking their sweet time uploading, but I don't recall a problem with this one, so maybe not. Tech-pocalypse, something that Proust didn't have to deal with in his cork-lined room. Anyway, now I'm not going to bash him, and I'm not going to bash the work. I'm going to go at it with an open mind, I promise. But it's a long way off, so I thought I'd give you a heads up in case you want to join me. So I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.